you please mute your microphone so the service can begin? My prelude today comes from the Jewish tradition. It's a poem by Rabbi Alvin Fine, and it is set to music by a friend of mine, Carrie Reich. He lives right here in Pinellas County, and it's always been one of my favorites. It's about life being a journey from birth to death. And it is called Birth is a Beginning. Birth is a beginning, and death a destination. Life is a journey from childhood to maturity, and from youth to age, from innocence to awareness, from ignorance to knowing, from foolishness to discretion, and then perhaps to wisdom, from weakness to strength, or strength to weakness, and often back again. From health to sickness, and back we pray to health again. From offense to forgiveness, loneliness to love, joy to gratitude, from pain to compassion, and grief to understanding, from fear to faith, from defeat to defeat to defeat, from fear to faith, from defeat to defeat to defeat, until looking backward or ahead, we see that victory lies, not in some high place along the way, but in having made the journey stage by stage, a sacred pilgrimage, a sacred pilgrimage. Birth is a beginning, death a destination, life is a journey, a sacred pilgrimage to life, everlasting, to life, to life, everlasting.
Thank you, Bonnie. Good morning, everyone, and welcome. I love seeing all the people. It's growing every week. Welcome, dear friends. Welcome to our spiritual home, the Unitarian Universalist Church of Tarpon Springs. Our church is located here in the heart of the walkable Tarpon Springs Historic District and is known as the home of the Innes paintings. My name is Barbara Rosen, and I serve on our Board of Trustees, and I'm also serving as your worship associate today. We are a church of many welcomes, and we offer a warm welcome to all of you who have joined us. This is a liberal community for all ages, promoting spiritual growth, social justice, and the arts. As such, ours is an active church, and everyone is involved invited to participate in any of our activities, whether you are a member or not. To learn more about events, our church calendar is on our website, uutarpon.org, or you can discuss activities with church members or our membership chair, who will contact you if we have your information. Although our children are not with us during the service at this time, we do have faith formation programming available with our gifted leader, Jami Cruz. Children are gathering for their time together with her and a member of the congregation, and meeting just outside the social hall. If you'd like to see more information about our programming, please contact Reverend Kristina or see Jami after the service. For those present with us in the building, we have connection cards available in the pews near the hymnals. If you fill one out and put it in the offering plate or give it to one of our greeters, we will be able to keep in touch with you. We are delighted to have Reverend Kristina Spaude leading the service today. Music is provided by our music director, Bonnie Whitehurst. Bonnie will be singing throughout the service, and you're welcome to sing along wearing masks to the songs and hymns. Again, welcome. And we begin our service today with our chalice lighting. With words by Kate McPhee. Around us, light is returning. It rekindles the spirit of life in the skeletons of trees, and it brings forth new shoots from the soil. It wakes us from our winter slumber and invites us to see what lies beyond. We light this chalice in the spirit of our Earth's awakening and to reaffirm our commitment to the value of our home.
At this time, we'll sing Spirit of Life, number 123, in the gray hymnal, if you need to peek.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea. The shape of justice, roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
Keep hearing sounds of children coming across the building, and it just absolutely delights me. Our story today isn't exactly a story, but more of an invitation to imagining. This is Roots and Wings, the Sources of Our Faith, written by Beth Casebolt and adapted by Andrea James and me. Our faith is one where for everything we know, we find more questions. Our spiritual growth or faith formation programming is one place where we help each other learn and grow as we search for what is true. This is part of what makes us Unitarian Universalists the freedom and encouragement to figure out for ourselves what our own answers are to life's big questions, such as, is there a God? And if so, what and where is it? What happens when we die? Who am I? And how can I make a difference? Unitarian Universalism has 7 principles and 6 sources. The principles are concepts that guide us and that we can actively work on in ourselves, our families, and in our world. For example, if we agree that every person is worthwhile, how does that change the way we relate to our classmates, customers, or strangers who get under our skin? How can we help those in the world who aren't treated well? The sources are the places of our faith that suggest that we look for answers to our questions. Remember that Unitarian Universalism doesn't often just hand us answers. Instead, each of us needs to look for the answers that feel and sound right to us. You have to choose the answer that speaks to you. Religious educator Beth Casebolt helps us to understand the idea of where to look for answers. She asks us to imagine a very large library. She knows us well, doesn't she? One with well-marked shelves that anyone can reach and comfortable chairs scattered around for people to sit in, and a few rooms off to one side where people can hold quiet discussions. The books of this library are divided into 6 general categories. The first set of shelves is unlike anything you'll see in other libraries. These books are filled with memories and feelings. These are our personal experiences, including those moments when we felt a sense of wonder and awe. When I look, I see books filled with my memories and feelings. When you look, you see yours. And this set of shelves is always expanding and growing because every day we have new experiences to add. The second set of shelves is a collection of stories about real people from history and today. They reflect the words and deeds of people who had important things to say about the way we should treat one another. We call them prophetic. Some are famous, like Ralph Waldo Emerson, Sojourner Truth, Gloria Steinem, and Martin Luther King Jr. Others are not. They live quietly and unknown, but they are making a difference. Some of these prophetic people of all ages are in our church, right here in this room, and in our communities. The wisdom of the world's religions fills the third set of shelves. Here you can find religious texts like the Quran and the Bhagavad Gita, writings by the leaders of the world's religions, and thoughts about the text can be found here. They are grouped by religion: Islam, Hinduism, Buddhism, Wicca, and many more. What can we learn from other faiths that might help us to understand our own? The fourth set of shelves has Jewish and Christian texts. It may seem a little odd to have this separate from world religions, but Unitarian Universalism has a direct connection to these 2 faiths, making it important to give them a section of their own. Here we find the Hebrew and Christian sections of the Bible, including all the parts that some groups include and others do not. It's full of many, many stories. Our 5th set of shelves is overflowing with books about scientific discoveries and humanist beliefs. Here we find the humanist manifestos, ethical statements, and the discoveries of Galileo, Marie Curie, Albert Einstein, Jane Goodall, and others. There's a boxed DVD set of the TV show Cosmos with both Carl Sagan and Neil deGrasse Tyson, and an area full of dinosaur skeletons and fossils. The last set of shelves is filled with books that teach us about the earth. We find First Nations teachings along with pagan and other earth-based religions, books that study the natural rhythms in our lives, and texts about the miracles of life. We'd find science books on these shelves too, covering the environment, biology, sexuality education, and other related fields. Off to one side, picture a lush garden and miniature habitats, since observation is one of the best ways to learn about nature. Our sources are like this imaginary library, which in my mind must be enormous and beautiful, with delicious snacks and a stream and trees running all through it. Our sources are where we look for our answers that we seek. Just as we do in our services and in our lives, we all return again and again to these magical shelves.
In the 1980s, I worked for the Pinellas County Arts Council with a team of artists, visual artists, writers, potters, and myself as the musician. And we worked in many of the neighborly senior citizens centers around the county. And one of them was in the Ridgecrest area of Largo. It was primarily an African American site, and in turn, they taught us many of their songs as we worked together. And this is one, On Up to Glory. I'm on a journey. I am traveling on up to glory. On my journey home, I'm on my journey home. All before me my pathway grows lighter. On my journey, I'm on my journey home. Well, I go singing, praying, watching and meditating on all that's to come. I'm living here, but I'm not of this world. I am on my journey home. I can treat my neighbor better on my journey home. I'm on my journey home. All before me my burdens grow lighter. On my journey, I'm on my journey home. Well, I go singing, praying, watching and meditating on all that's to come. I'm living here, but I'm not of this
home. I am on my journey home.
Now is the time in the service where we take our offering for the work and welfare of this church. Ours is a free faith which must sustain itself financially. Please go to our website, uutarpon.org, and click on the Donate button, or you may mail your offering to the church at 57 Reed Street, Tarpon Springs, Florida, 34689. For those of you with us in person, we ask that you place your offering in the offering plates as you exit the church. The offering will now be given and received.
This song was written by a Unitarian. His last name was Tomilovich, and he is from my home state of Michigan, and in Ann Arbor, Michigan is where he was from. Called Ours is a Simple Faith.
Ours is a simple faith. Life is a short embrace. Heaven is in this place every day. Hope is the ground we till. Make each day what you will. Thankful for dreams fulfilled every day. There is no hell to fear, no judgment day drawing near. Trust that inner voice you hear every day. Life's not a goal or a race. It's about heart and faith and living a life of grace every day. Trust is an open hand, making an honest stand, rooted here in this land every day. Live in the mystery, seeking the harmony here between you and me every day. Ours is a simple faith. Life is a short embrace. Heaven is in this place every day. Hope is the ground we till. Make each day what you will. Thankful for dreams fulfilled every day.
Our reading today comes from Frederick Buechner, an excerpt from his work, Beyond Words. They say that whenever the great Protestant theologian Paul Tillich went to the beach, he would pile up a mound of sand and sit on it, gazing out at the ocean with tears running down his cheeks. One wonders what there was about it that moved him so. The beauty and power of it, the inexpressible mystery of it, the futility of all those waves endlessly flowing in and ebbing out again. The sense that it was out of the ocean that life originally came, and that when life finally ends, it is the ocean that will still remain. Who knows? In his theology, Tillich avoided using the word God because it seemed to him too small, denoting only another being among beings. He preferred to speak instead of the ground of being, of God as that which makes being itself possible, as that because of which existence itself exists. His critics complain that he is being too metaphysical. They say they can't imagine praying to anything so abstract and remote. Maybe Tillich himself shared their difficulty. Maybe it was when he looked at the ocean that he caught a glimpse of the one he was praying to. Maybe what made him weep was how vast and overwhelming it was, and yet, at the same time, as near as the breath of it in his nostrils, as salty as his own tears. My faith journey began somehow, some way, long before I had language, concepts, or any framework to reference. As has become not uncommon for people my age or younger, I was raised unchurched. I mean that in the way that we only went to church on Christmas Eve and sometimes on Easter, sometimes even going to different churches, and in a secular household turned households. None of my parents talk about their own faiths, so much so that I still cannot tell you one thing about any of their theologies. And so I was left to find my own way in that area. I'm sure I didn't listen when we did go to church. I'm not a good listener in that way. I can listen to individuals and groups when there's a conversation, but when listening requires that much of a passive role, one of receiving, my mind wanders easily. So I don't blame you if yours does too. That's the primary reason that when I'm in meetings, I am often cross-stitching. It helps keep me focused and listen better than I would if my hands weren't occupied. I'm not sure that if I had been a good listener that I would have been swayed anyway. The only things I heard from Christians at school, for example, were the beliefs about people going to hell, an idea I just couldn't understand. The things we hear from the conservative and evangelical groups, who we may also think of as just the loudest of the bunch. I'm sure others had different beliefs, but I did not hear about them. And I don't know how much I would have cared, in all honesty. As a child, I was quite wrapped up in our family system, and religious beliefs didn't resonate for me. It provided no meaning for me. Still, throughout my primary education, I was exposed to religions and beliefs and found them to be fascinating. But fascinating in a, that's so interesting that people believe these things way. Not one of judgment, simply of detached fascination. We did some tours of different houses of worship across the city and learned about religions and philosophies as we studied different parts of the world. Throughout childhood and adolescence, I consistently felt held when I was out in the world. Held by a knowledge of something greater, that our lives are small and part of something more. That idea that we are not simply the sum of our parts, but more than that. I remember being struck by a puzzle as a child. In one patch where my grandmother had flowers, she also had a statue of, I believe it was Francis of Assisi. I didn't understand why he was there in that little area of plants, but also because he was a statue, just came to trust his peace there. As I got older and began to realize my trauma and depression, I also began seeking for more. That idea that we are meaning-seeking, meaning-making, storytelling creatures is, for me, a direct expression of my own experiences. I had long been seeking and trying to make meaning of the circumstances of my life and life in general, and as I became an adult, the seeking, longing grew. From high school on, I identified as an atheist, and still probably would if men like Richard Dawkins and Christopher Hitchens hadn't ruined it for so much of us. Their militancy and something that seems to border on loathing I find deeply upsetting, so much so that I don't want to be associated with it. And having gone to seminary, I now have more words to talk about my beliefs than I did before. I now identify as a non-theist, which mostly means the same things. Although non-theist can also include not just those who don't believe in God, but also those who are essentially indifferent to the matter. It's telling that the term non-theist has gained more traction since Dawkins, Hitchens, and others have become so vocal. While some of their ideas do have merit, to me they are really no different in ideology than the conservative and evangelical Christians they so adamantly oppose. In its completeness, I say that I am a non-theistic, religious naturalist, humanist, and universalists, informed by process theology and collective liberation. All of that means that I feel connected to the world through the world. I try to live a good life and be a good example. I am nurtured in my relationships with other people. I believe that anything that happens to one of us happens to all of us, and that each day, each moment, we have the choice and opportunity to make something different. Unlike others, I have not been exposed to religious trauma or abuse or much of the hypocrisy of church people. And having trained in part in languages and translation long before religion and church became my life, I have a passion for playing with words and using them in a way that expresses what I mean. When you learn a foreign language, it's common to learn word equivalences. For example, the equivalents of the word house in French and Russian are maison and dom, respectively. What these equivalences don't tell you without cultural understanding, or more specifically, the lived experiences of the people who live in these places, is that while it is common in the US to say that you live in a house, it is uncommon in France or Russia to say that you live in a house. In the case of each of those countries, to say that you live in a house often implies living in a rural setting with very specific geographic, cultural, class, and other content. The word equivalences are not the same as the cultural context. And further, here in the US, house can mean so many things. From a tiny house to a mansion, those and many other structures can all be referred to as a house. We may have some basic understanding of a 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath, 2-story house like one of the ones that I grew up in, with a yard and a fence, or we may think of something completely different. The architectural style may vary by home. While we didn't live in one, brick homes were common in the place where I am from, and there's a style to many of the houses on the streets where I grew up that will never not feel like home to me. So although I am a non-theist, I have ease in claiming what is traditionally thought of as religious language, because the words I use mean something to me. While their basic concepts may be represented in my thoughts as they are in others, there may also be a gap in the context of the understanding. I won't have my right to use those words be taken from me. I use words like faith when talking about both individual and collective beliefs and practices. I often refer to Unitarian Universalism itself as a faith or a faith movement because it seems to fit our theology as I understand it. But I do at times also refer to it as a religion, if the setting merits it, because we are also that. When people ask me what we believe, I tell them that we have come out of the Christian traditions, but are no longer bound by them, and we are a covenantal faith. Like the differences between an American house and a French or Russian one, we don't believe in the same way that many other religions do. When he was president of the UUA, the Reverend Bill Sinkford expressed concern about how UUs have had much resistance to religious language. He advocated for us to reimagine and claim what he called a language of reverence. The Reverend Dr. Kendall Gibbons wrote in part in a 2006 piece in UU World titled Human Reverence, "The language of reverence is the language of humanity," the following. As a young Unitarian Universalist in the 1960s, I was educated about human sexuality in a relatively open fashion. Human religious experience, in contrast, was a closed book. I discovered my spirituality in much the same way that my peers raised in more conservative faiths discovered their sexuality: accidentally, furtively, without guidance, moved by overwhelming inner tides, and with some sense of shame. I secretly memorized Louisa May Alcott's My Kingdom prayer, written when she was 13, and sang myself to sleep with For the Beauty of the Earth. To my parents and teachers, almost all of whom had grown up in other religious traditions, the absence of texts, rote prayers, sacraments, holy objects, and moralistic picture books represented freedom. But without any language for my emerging sense of mystery and wonder, I came to feel the contrary, deprived of the tools with which to understand or express those experiences. Many of us have abandoned what we think of as traditional religious language for the reason Reverend Dr. Gibbons states it represents freedom or religious thought we want to distance ourselves from. So many people now proudly proclaim that they are spiritual but not religious, including Unitarian Universalists. This always makes me chuckle internally, because if you are a Unitarian Universalist and you come to church or participate in congregational life, you are indeed a religious person. In order to practice Unitarian Universalism, perhaps even more so than other religions, you must be religious, because there is no practice of our faith without each other. Covenants require more than one person to be made, and so practice of a covenantal faith means you are with people. And what you practice with people gives you the foundation for a religion. The word worship historically is from the word worth, with the ending added to make it a noun. Worship then means not some abstract act done in appeasement, but an expression of respect and value. To worship is to set apart, to honor its worth. Religions encourage people to worship those things they value. My own insistence on claiming religious language comes from my training in languages and translation, as well as semiotics, the study of signs and symbols and their use or interpretation. It's something we practice all the time without being aware of it or the study of it. Like how we know that when we see an octagonal red sign near an intersection, even if it doesn't say stop in capital white letters, we likely would stop because that is what the sign implies. So the word God doesn't mean anything in particular, just as religion or faith or worship don't mean a particular thing. Their meanings vary across the different belief systems that hold them. It will mean something somewhat different for Muslims or Jews than it will for Christians or pagans, or the non-theists and humanists among us. A perennial question that arises is whether Buddhism or Taoism are considered religions when they don't fit traditional European definitions of religions. We, too, are in that boat. Apart from robbing us of a rich vocabulary that can help us express our meaning-seeking, meaning-making stories, not using religious language has another major consequence. We are harmed, directly and indirectly, by the way the use of such words have been almost exclusively claimed by conservative and evangelical Christians. Or perhaps haven't even been exclusively claimed, but their voices are so loud we might think of it that way. Our shared faith requires no statements of faith or belief from any of us. We are pluralistic in that people from a variety of faith and belief backgrounds are welcome among us, so long as they covenant with us on our journeys to co-create and participate in community making in our congregations. Our reluctance or unwillingness to use more traditionally religious language has real consequences. It gives more conservative and evangelical, that is loud, voices control over what the use of words means. You don't believe in a brimstone, hellfire-wielding God? Well, speak up about it, because that's the only God that some imagine, and a number of them sit in our legislatures. When we can't say, I believe in a God who loves each and every one of us, whole as who we are, not in spite of, but because of the ways our humanity is expressed by color, gender, sexuality, ability, and other factors, because that's how we can know God, by celebrating what it means to be any and all things. We have given up the control we have to lift the words and change their meanings by refusing to take part in that conversation. We also prevent our visibility in public life. I have some colleagues in Georgia and Texas who have shared their practice of wearing clerical collars when they're in public, with a pride flag or pin or Black Lives Matter pin or both. They get approached by people of all ages, asking questions, giving thanks to see clergy who support the same things they do, openly and unapologetically. I have myself, with a passage through the Florida legislature now of the so-called Don't Say Gay bill, decided it's time for me to take up this practice. Last spring, I brought myself a pride flag tab for my collar, and I wear that now when I'm running errands. My pride flag collar tab is inclusive of both trans and Black and brown identities. I want the world to know where justice lies, and that at least some of us embrace the inherent worth and dignity of all, and this is the way that I am able to do so. And I do it because my theology, my faith, is grounded in relationship. Relationship is the core of everything I do: the justice work, the pastoral and spiritual care, the board development, and everything else. My faith is grounded in the belief that everything is interconnected, woven together by care and interdependence in every way, and the trust, faith that is always possible that we will do the next right thing, and the possibility that our next choice will be the next better thing. One of the reasons I volunteer with a cat rescue, farm, and sanctuary is because although I believe in people, sometimes some of us, including myself, grate on my nerves. And when that happens, I turn to the rescue. And I come back to the people, both as a source of hope and as a source of possibility. I take walks and cross-stitch a lot, and do things that feed me, to give me the strength to keep moving forward. Sometimes it's resting, sometimes it's Netflix. Often it's also playing with my cats. Whatever your choices in renewing your faith, your heart, your spirit, may you be heartened in this moment by these words from retired Bishop Stephen Charleston, Episcopal priest and elder of the Choctaw Nation. You are here for a reason that is defined not only by the work you do, but by the life you lead. You are a connecting point to the sacred, a living channel through which streams of grace flow out into the world, into that reality of the people you meet, into the world you help to create simply by your presence. You are a signal, a messenger who lives a message, who embodies the meaning of the holy in every choice you make. You are a healer, a source of nurture and wholeness, here for a reason that restores the bridge of hope. If you would please join me now in singing our closing hymn in the Teal hymnal, number 1051, We Are. Again, that is hymn number 1051.
This hymn has many sections, and the way I have done it in the past, and the choir with me, is that we repeat the first section and the last section, and the rest of us, we just sing through.
child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. We are our grandfather's prayers, and we are our grandfather's dreamings. We are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. We are mothers of courage and fathers of time. We are daughters of dust and sons of great vision. We're sisters of mercy and brothers of love. We are lovers of life and the builders of nations. We're seekers of truth and keepers of faith. We are makers of peace and the wisdom of ages. We are our grandmother's prayers, and we are our grandfather's dreamings. We are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are.
I close with these words from Jean Harrison Newyar, who has written in The Gift of Faith. In the lore of ancient China, there's a story of a philosopher who was asked, "Where is the road called hope?" He replied, "It does not exist, but as people move forward upon it, it comes into being." I invite you to continue moving forward on this journey, this road, this bridge called hope, together with me.
We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time to lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to live in love. We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round to tend these fires. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. is time now. Oh, it is time now. And what a time to be alive. In this great turning, we shall learn to live in love. In this great turning, we shall learn to live in love.
We hope that you found meaning in today's service. We close with these words from Robin F. Gray. The flame is extinguished, but not our hope for the future, our courage in the face of crisis, or the love we share in all the world. We have a couple announcements today. The Sunday service team would like you to know about a change to enhance our worship services. We will be adding a TV monitor on a rolling cart, and this is a cart you won't believe, that can be used during the services. Our first thoughts are that it will allow us to continue to welcome worship associates to participate in the services even from home as the pandemic worsens and improves. We may also be able to host guest ministers from a distance. We'll be able to sometimes share pictures for the story. Our other immediate hope is that this will help us bring back joys and concerns, allowing all that we participate equally, whether from the sanctuary or from home. We may yet find other uses we haven't thought of as well. Another announcement is that our coffee hour will begin April the 3rd after the service. Details will be announced next week, and please offer to help with setup or closeout. The form today, Judy Lucarelli would like to explain, and thank you all.
There's a program after the church, as soon as we can all gather, for visitors and people who are interested in knowing more about our church. Now this is, if you're already a member, it's not intended for you, it's intended for the people who have come and visited us sometime in the past year or today. And we will gather, first I gotta poke into the form room to find out if there's anyone on Zoom who fits into that category. And if not, we'll either be in the, I'll stand in the coffee, I'm saying coffee hour because I'm so excited we're gonna have coffee again, in the social hall, and we can decide when we see how many of us there are if we wanna meet outside instead. So I wore my bright shirt. It's going to be me and Reverend Kristina and a few others that will be trying to learn more about you and extend a hand of welcome. Thank you.